Guest of honor, Advocate Jinan Coelho Pereira, sir, President of High Court Bar Association, Advocate Vilas Patni, Advocate Ramakant Khalap, other dignitaries of the day's guests, invitees, friends, and family, a very good evening to you all. What a star-studded evening today, with the best of legal celebrities adorning the days. And it's even more starry on the other side, with all you guests, the who's who of legal fraternity I see here in the attendance for this book launch event. I, Dr. Pratiksha Khalap, will be your host for the evening, and with great pleasure, I take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to all of you for this launch ceremony of Ram Shastry Prabhune, an icon of judicial integrity and independence. So the book that is going to be launched today is an English version of the original in Marathi, written at the request of Advocate Vilas Patni. Not many in the present generation know about the epitome of imperial justice, Ram Shastry Prabhune. The present generation must know the philosophy behind Ram Shastri's decisions more than the man himself. This is one of the reasons Advocate Khalap wrote this book. In Bhai Khalap's opinion, Ram Shastry was as great as Montesquieu, the French jurist. In the course of the evening, we will hear more about the book and the iconic figure. To do the honors of book release, we have renowned personalities here with us. We are very fortunate to have amongst us Justice Maheshji Sonak, Advocate Devidas Pangam, Advocate Jinman Coelho Pereira, and Advocate Vilas Patni. A warm welcome to you all, sir. May I now call upon Advocate Srinivas Khalap to introduce the dignitaries on the day. Thank you.
In the order of precedence, Justice Mahesh Sharashchandra Sonak, born on 20th November 1964, completed school education from Don Bosco High School, Panji, Goa, BSc from Dampe College of Arts and Science, LLB from MS College of Law, Panji, in first class affiliated to Bombay University, Portuguese language diploma awarded by Xavier Center of Historical Research, enrolled as an advocate on the rules of the Bar Council of Maharashtra and Goa in October 1988, and practiced at Panji Bench of High Court of Judicature, Bombay in civil and constitutional law, labor and service law, environmental law, commercial and tax law, company law, and public interest litigations. Additional Standing Counsel for Central Government, Special Counsel for State Government and Statutory Corporation. Elevated as Additional Judge of the High Court of Judicature at Bombay on 21st June 2013. We welcome you, sir. I request Mr. Laita Khalap to welcome Justice Sonak by giving us Shastry. Advocate General Devidas Pangam has been serving our beloved state of Goa as the top law officer of the state since June 2019. His story is an inspiration to many. Born in a small village of Keri near Sakli town, in a business family, Advocate Pangam did his schooling in Progress High School, Sakli. He graduated from St. Xavier's College, Mapsa, and obtained his law degree from Salgaonkar Law College, Miramar. Soon after he graduated from law school, he joined the esteemed chambers of Advocate Ferdinand Rivello, who was shortly elevated as the judge of Bombay High Court. Subsequently, he joined the chambers of then Advocate Mahesh Sonak, and Justice Mahesh Sonak now, who is now the sitting judge of the Bombay High Court. Advocate Pangam has argued many cases which have gone on to be reported in various law journals of the country. Advocate Pangam practiced in Bombay High Court at Goa and is proficient in different fields of law such as constitutional law, income tax law, mining law, service law, and civil law. As a then young and upcoming lawyer, Advocate Pangam not only represented the illustrious spectrum of our society, but also defended and protected the rights of the common man and less fortunate. He truly is a living example of kindness and humility in every sense of the word. Besides law, Advocate Pangam has keen interest in ancient world history and ancient Goan culture. He is an ardent lover of Konkani and Marathi folklore and music. May I request Ms. Anita Chala to welcome Advocate General Devidas Pandey. Senior Advocate J. Coel Pereira graduated in Economics from from the Dampe College of Arts and Science, Miramar, completed graduation in Law in year 1972 from Government Law College, Mumbai, and thereafter started practice in various courts, including the High Court of Bombay, and after that, before the Judicial Commissioner of Goa and Honorable High Court of Bombay at Goa, Panji Bench and other courts, and handled constitutional matters, election matters, company matters, civil cases and other matters under various statutes, local and central. Appointed as Advocate General for the state of Goa in year 1994. Designated by Bombay High Court as the Senior Advocate in year 1994. Reappointed as Advocate General of Goa subsequently in year 1998. Appointed as member of the Town and Country Planning Board in 1994. Co-opted Councillor of the Municipal Corporation of Panji, member of NALSA in year 1998. At present, he is President of the Bar Association of High Court of Bombay at Goa and President of Semina di Cultura, cultural organization for diffuse of Goan culture. May I request Mr. Naida Kalab to give a settling to Senior Advocate J. Coel Pereira. Advocate Vilas Patne is senior member of Ratnagiri District Court Bar. He is a freelance journalist, social activist, writer, organizer of literature conferences, seminars and meets. He is a pillar of Konkan Marathi Sahitya Parishad and a champion of social justice, arts, music and literature. He is an environmentalist, historian and an expert on 18th century pre-British Indian tradition of jurisprudence. His work and research will amaze you with that the general principles of law that we take granted as British legal system are in fact Indian traditions. We welcome Advocate Vilas Patne with a settlement.
Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause for all the dignitaries present here? Thank you so much, Advocate Srinivas Kalab, for doing the introductions. Deepa Jyoti Parabrahma, Deepa Sarvatamopa, Deepena Sadhyate Sarvam, Sandhya Deepo Namostute. It is light of a lamp that pervades all existence. A lamp removes all darkness, and it is by the lamp that one can achieve everything. The light of the lamp is a symbol of hope, peace and prosperity. Let us now begin the auspicious occasion by lighting of the traditional lamp. May I request the dignitaries to please do the honors.
मोबाइल से कहते हैं मोबाइल मोबाइल
Thank you so much, dignitaries. Let us now move to the main agenda of the gathering, the launch of the book Ram Shastry Prabhune, who himself was a light of hope to many in his times. His decisions regarding remarriage of widows, right to Vedic rites of Kayastha Prabhu, etc., reveal Ram Shastri's greatness. Without any further ado, request our chief guest, Justice Maheshji Sonar, to release the book. As we have heard, the earlier generation had some information about the life and times of Ram Shastri. The present generation, however, does not appear to have any knowledge about him or much knowledge about him. This book, therefore, is of historical importance. Let us now hear from the writer himself, Advocate Bhai Kalab, on his thoughts and ideas of writing this book. Over to you, Advocate Bhai Kalab.
Honorable Chief Justice, Justice Maheshji Sonar, Honorable Advocate General, Shri Pangam, Honorable former Advocate General and President of Bar Association, Zilman Coelho Ferreira, Advocate Vilas Patne, the original author of the book Ram Shastri Prabhune, which he wrote in Marathi some years back. Dignitaries present here in this August House, and my friends. My thoughts go back to about 10 years ago, when I and Vilas Patne met in Ratnagiri. I was invited to attend a function organized by him in memory of his late father. And the Puraskar that was handed over that day was called the Sahajivan Puraskar. I was accompanied by Madhu Mangeshkar Dekh. And I was introduced to him as son-in-law, or rather grandson-in-law, of a character, real life character, in a book by Sri Na Pain Singh. तुंबाड से खोत साहेब आपण ही कादंबरी वाचलेली असेल. अत्यंत सुंदर अशी, full of description of the scenery of that area, the culture, the life, and so many things. Tumbad se khot went on to become a great book. And then we went, he took us to the house of Babla Sheth, who is the main character in that Tumbad se khot. And since then we became friends. Happened to be there on some other occasions. He's a great guest. And he has around him a gathering of fine people. Many of them are authors, many of them are lawyers, journalists. And almost everyone seems to be so committed to this land called Ratnagiri. that sometimes I get feeling that when we in Goa don't seem to be so affiliated with our own place. Ratnagiri is a place known for human ratnas, jewels among them. And these jewels have made name in different walks of life. So this man one day invited me to write a preface to his book, Ram Shastry Prabhune. I had heard about Ram Shastry Prabhune. I had read a bit of things about him. But the knowledge was just superficial. So when he told me to write a preface to that, I delved a little deeper into it. And it dawned on me that Ram Shastry Prabhune cannot be confined to that real realm, small realm of the Peshwas, near about Pune. But he should be known the world over. And I wrote that in that preface. And I compared him to Montesquieu. Montesquieu was a philosopher during the times, those tumultuous times in European history, when Louis XIV was ruling there. And Louis XIV was a man who usurped, rather that was the fashion perhaps, the system perhaps in those days, he usurped the entire parliament. He called himself, if accosted every time, he would say, "Leta se moi. I am the state, I am the law." That was the position in those days, so nobody could ever contest. Whatever judgment he gave, whatever sentence he imposed, had to be implemented. No appeal, no question whether people had right to defend themselves or not was not a question. So under that circumstances, one of his philosophers wrote a book called The Spirit of Law, L'Esprit de Loi in French. And in that he advocated that the powers of justice and the powers of administration should not vest in one single person. There is to be separation of powers. And that book became a rage. Of course, Louis XIV, Louis XIV could not accept that philosophy. The clergy would not accept it. And then the inevitable had to happen, he had to go away. But then those principles became embodied in the modern constitutions. America accepted it. European countries accepted those principles. And our constitution, as we all know, strongly believes in these principles of separation of powers. So we have the government on one side, we have the legislature, and we have the judiciary. And we all look up to the judiciary whenever we feel threatened by the actions of the government. Whenever we feel that we are not getting proper justice, we approach the courts. And by and large, the Indian judiciary has created a niche for itself in the world history of judiciary. Our judges are exemplary judges. The judgments they have given out today guide the destinies of the countries wherever democracy is worshipped. Of course, as in every other way, there are a few examples, few exceptions. Some of our governments sometimes consider themselves as modern day avatars of Louis XIV. And when that happens, it gives rise to conflicts. Sometimes they do feel threatened that what may happen to our democracy, what may happen to our country. But we cannot be pessimists. I'm an optimist to the core, and I always believe that no matter what our executives may do, no matter what, a few exceptions could be there in the judiciary, no matter what some of our own people start thinking that democracy is not meant for India, and so on and so forth. But the core belief remains, and that core belief is that this is a country where democracy is the bedrock of our society, and this democracy has to be sustained at any cost, under any circumstances, no matter who is there at the helm of affairs and how he behaves at that particular position. So we have illustrious journey. So I thought that whatever my friend Advocate Partner has written must be written in English so that the people learn. I said, Mr. Partner, you write in English. And he's a smart man, a lawyer, you know how the good lawyers are. But what he did very smartly. So my friend Mr. Galab has said this, etc. compared Ram Shastry, Prabhune to Montesquieu and other things. I request him to prepare English version of this book so that everybody reads it. And then he started pestering me. He started pestering me so much that finally I had no other option. And I said, okay, let me try my hand. And I let me tell you, so many things you have heard about me. There are a few good things and some bad things are there. But then I like to read and I like to appreciate good things. So I said, there must be some version of this book, but I didn't know whether whatever I have written is good enough and whether you people will like it or not. But then a time has been made, and I am sure as time goes on, perhaps there will be somebody else who may delve further into lives of both Montesquieu as well as Ram Shastry Prabhune. Remember the days Ram Shastry was a judge in the court of Peshwa, and Peshwas in certain aspects were no better than Louis XIV. Raghava Dada, Kaka Malavaswa, no? This we have heard so many times. Kaka Malavaswa. For Narendra Rao, the young Peshwa, he feels threatened. The guards come chasing him. Poor clings to the feet of his uncle Raghava Dada and begs for his life. But then he's pulled away from the body and mercilessly killed. Now, such a person who is guilty of murder, remember, go back to those times. Such a person who is guilty of murder is tried before Ram Shastry. Ram Shastry affords him all the opportunity to defend himself, and ultimately holds him guilty of murder of his own nephew. And this Raghava Dada, those days, of course, the types of punishment were different. They were based on caste. If you were a low caste, you would be cut into 1,000 pieces. If you are a little middle caste, probably you would lose a limb or two. And if you are a high caste, a Brahmin of those days, you get away with saying that, okay, I'll do some penance, go to some religious place and sit there and do whatever atonement for the purpose of getting out of this sin. So Raghava comes and asks him, what is the punishment? And in spite of this tradition there, this judge confronts him straight away and tells him, death is the only sentence available to you. Look at the excitement, whatever that must have happened in that particular time in that court when he orders this execution. Death sentence when he awards death sentence. And then he does one thing. Raghava Dada, after doing that, he quits. He gives up his judgeship and goes into wilderness, so to say. And later, when he's recalled, a lot of political changes which you can read in this book and all that, he's recalled, he puts a condition. He says, I'll come back only. And they give that. It is the photograph is published of the original in this book, where they undertake not to interfere in this judicial process in any way whatsoever. So that is the way, the history that was created, and it is there, just a part of it, a few glimpses of it available in this book of Ram Shastry. Coming back, we had emergency days, where judges were, some of the senior judges were sidelined, and all that historical aspect we all know. Now and then people also say that certain judges should have given this judgment in this way or the other way. But as a Goan, I am proud that the judges who have gone to the Bombay High Court from the bar in Goa have done exceptionally well. Our Advocate Generals have done exceptionally well. We have Dilman Coelho Pereira, who became twice the Advocate General. We have Devidas Pangam, who has also been assuring us that no matter what Karnataka does, Madhe water is ours. Let's hope that he succeeds in that. And we have Justice Mahesh Sona. I recollect my association with his illustrious father. He was a lawyer himself. And we young lawyers in those days, in 72, 73, 74, would always say, Justice Sona, Advocate Sona should have been a judge. We always felt that way because that was his temperament. That was the way he behaved. And to juniors like us, he would do the hand-holding. Although, I remember a case where I was opposing him in a civil suit in the Mamsa court. And then, as young lawyers, we tried to find out ways and means to wriggle out of the situation. And I tried it by asking for particulars in that particular, before filing a written statement, which I think most of us do it to avoid to gain time from the courts and so on and so forth. And I handed over him a copy of that. Judge was so and so. And when I asked for that, gave the application for better particulars, I got such a tongue lashing from the judge. He says, you people have been resorting to these tactics to gain time. And perhaps that gives you enough fees. By way of fees, you can earn more. That was rather insulting in an open court, and particularly for a young lawyer like me who was just, had entered the portals of the court and was waiting to, bid my time, and later on, I also aspired to be judge, my lord. That never happened. But then, he rose to my rescue, and he told the judge point blank, Mr. Judge, you are committing contempt of the court. His son today is the judge of the court. I pray, Lord, may God, Goa hasn't had so far any representation of the Supreme Court. And Justice Sonaji, may you one day rise to that. In short, this is the introduction I'd like to make to this book, Prabhune. It doesn't cost much. The books available are very few. The number of people are many. I'm sorry that all could not be accommodated in chairs, etc. So you are sitting in a cramped hall. That's because our Panji has been. People say it is bombarded. Yeah. Moving into Panji city was a problem for me, and they said, don't do anything there, do it here. And then when I came here, I found that most of the halls are already engaged. So finally, we resorted to this little place. So please bear with us, and let's proceed with this. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Advocate Bhai Khalab. Who better can write about judicial independence other than Advocate Bhai, who is an icon himself when it comes to Indian judiciary. Let me remind you guests, this book happens to be Bhai's 5th book in the last 5 years, if I am not mistaken. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause for Moving now. I now call upon Advocate General Devidas Pangam sir to give his valuable remarks.
Honorable Justice Mahesh Sona, the Judge of the Bombay High Court, Mr. Coelho Pereira, the President of the Goa High Court Bar Association, Mr. Prabhune, the eminent author, Mr. Ramakant Khalab, whom I know from my childhood, my dear friends, and all of you. This is an occasion which I feel is unique. When it comes to law, we always talk about Western system of laws. We cite judgments from English courts, we cite judgments from American courts. We have all principles in law which are based on Western legal systems. We always quote judges from the English courts, we quote judges from the American courts, we are talking about judges from Australia and all over the world. Our entire legal system is based on the principles based and which are invented in the Western countries. And the whole attitude is look at West. And we have been brought up that way. And we have been made to teach, we have been made to learn, and we have been made to practice based on the Western legal systems. I always felt that for the problems which we have inherited and which are created here, which are born here, is it right or correct to find out solutions which are existing or which may be the solutions for Western world? I still feel that for our own problems, which are indigenous, which are creature of this land, the solution has to be found out in this land itself. We had famous personalities, including famous judges in this country, but nobody championed them. I do not know whether most of the people in India, including the parts of Maharashtra and Goa, would know about Shri Prabhune. In our childhood, we have heard about him. We have spoken about the dialogue which was quoted by Mr. Khalap. We have heard about it. That's all. We do not know much about it. And the young generation and the new generation is certainly not aware of it. So the whole thing is that we are not aware of our own history. We are not proud about our own historical personalities. We are trying to compare our own people at some point of time with somebody who is from Western world, who is from the modern world. When we have our own heroes, I think the publication of this book and this function is the right direction to tell the people of India and local people that we do have our own heroes. We have to appreciate, we have to find solutions. We have the people, examples and caliber of that level which can be matched with the world's level. That has to be highlighted. I think this function and publication of this book, especially a book on Ram Shastry Prabhune, is a welcome thing. We have to all appreciate it. And I must say thank you to Mr. Prabhune and Mr. Khalap for publishing these books, because this is going to be, in my view, it is going to be a big step. People will now come forward and point out that we have historical heroes whom we can follow, their ideas, their ethos we can implement, and we can really go forward. Friends, all of you know now that India is marching into a developed country. We have now become the 5th largest economy of the world. It is expected that in 2047, we are going to be a developed country. The thing is that if you want to become a developed country, if you want to lead the world, if you want to become an excellent country, you have to have your own solutions. You have to have your own institutions. You have to have your institutions based on the local conditions, local requirements, and local ideas. This book, in my view, would inspire people, especially from India and more particularly Maharashtra and Goa, to feel that we are not lagging in any manner. Our people, our own people are and have achieved the highest standards of excellence in any field. And this is, in my view, is the greatest contribution by this book. Congratulations to Mr. Prabhune and to Mr. Khalap for having us this book. Thank you very much. Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much, Advocate General Devidas Pangam sir, for your kind words. May I now request our second guest of honor, Advocate Gilman Coelho Pereira to address the gathering.
Mr. Justice Mahesh Sona, Chief Justice of the Learned Advocate General of the State, my good friends, Mr. Devidas Pangam, Mr. Ramakant Kalam, Mr. Vilas Patne, dignitaries here present, and the members of the august gathering. I feel honored and jubilant to be a witness to the other facet of my good friend, Mr. Ramakant Kalam. My association with Mr. Kalam dates back from the day when he joined the bar with the right foot and left it with the same foot to explore his other skills, namely political career, where he excelled as well. Mr. Kalam was a naval minister in the Bandolkar government and became the president of the Maharashtrawadi Komantak party, and again he became the deputy chief minister of the state, and subsequently, after getting elected as a member of parliament, became the law minister of the country. And as his contemporary as I am, I still miss his presence in court, which was always felt by his ability into putting forth his case. The English version of the original book in Marathi by Advocate Mr. Vilas Patne, Ram Shastry, Prabhune, an icon of judicial integrity and independence, which the chief guest is releasing today, and which I happen to go through, convinces me that Mr. Vilas Patne is also a colleague of mine with vision, though I have not met him, and I am meeting him here for the first time. The book depicts the professional life of Ram Shastry Prabhune as a Chief Justice during the regime of Peshava Madhav Rao, who assumed the reins of power at the tender age of 17 and happened to be murdered on a plot hedge by his uncle Raghava Dada and his wife. The book gives an insight in the thinking of the writer and at the same time chronicles the hard work undertaken by the writer in painstaking scholarly research by illustrating the decision rendered by Ram Shastry Prabhune. The author elucidates the central theme of his book, that is, judicial integrity and independence of judiciary, which is the need of the hour, and this is spelled out in his preface of the book. And this is found in the following passage in the preface. Raghava Dada was the most powerful officer of the Maratha Empire. Ram Shastry exhibited exemplary courage and fearlessness and integrity while pronouncing the judgment. He immediately thereafter demitted his office and proceeded in self-imposed retirement to the village called Mugaon near Vai. This act of Ram Shastry placed him on such high pedestal that he remains to this day a beacon of light for the legal world. Mr. Kalam, in his foreword, refers to Montesquieu, the propounder of theory of separation of powers. In the context of what the judiciary is faced with today, Mr. Justice S.S. Dhawan, in his book Indian Judicial System, a historical survey, outlines judicial system prevalent in ancient India. And he goes to say that we must go to the original text to get the true and correct picture of the legal system in ancient India, that one would infer from them that Indian jurisprudence was found on the rule of law, that the king himself was subject to the law, that the arbitrary use of power was unknown to Indian political theory and jurisprudence, and the king's rights to govern was subject to the fulfillment of duties, the breach of which resulted in forfeiture of kingship. that the judges were independent and subject only to the law, that ancient India has the highest standard of any nature of antiquity as regards the ability, learning, integrity, partiality, and independence of the judiciary. The Indian judiciary considered the hierarchy of judges with the court of the Chief Justice Prat Vivaka at the top, each high court being invested with the power to review the decisions of the court below. The disputes were decided essentially in accordance with the principles of natural justice, which governs the judicial process in the modern state today, that being the position which existed and for one finds support in the well-documented book of Advocate Patne. One doesn't understand why there should be a fear in the mind of citizens today that there be departure from the rule of law, which always existed in the country, which is historically proved till date to continue to make India a country where rule of law shall prevail. This book, the book which is released today by depicting the life of Ram Shastry Prabhune, should be an inspiration to all of us and should be a guide to all of us, to all those who are entrusted with the trust of justice delivery system, to take a leaf out of the book and be heartened by it. We have amongst us Mr. Justice Sonak, who is following Ram Shastri Prabhune. Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Jindal sir, for your valuable words. There is a famous inscription in Sanskrit, Yato Dharmas Tato Jaya, which means, whence justice or dharma, thence victory. This is also the tagline of our judiciary. We are all now eager to hear the man who heads the apex judicial institution of the state, the High Court. It is my honor to invite Justice Mahesh Ji Sonak to address the gathering.
Shri Devidas Pangam, Advocate General for Goa, Advocate Ramakant Khalap, former Union Law Minister, Shri Pereira, the President of the High Court Bar Association, Advocate Vilas Patneji, the original author of the Marathi book on Chief Justice Ram Shastri Prabhune, ladies and gentlemen, constitute this distinguished audience. Thank you very much for this invite and this honor. Advocate Vilas Patne and Advocate Ramakant Khalap have rendered excellent service to our generation and following generations by presenting this small but concise biography of one of the most significant pillars of judicial independence, Chief Justice Ram Shastri Prabhune. So today we have assembled to pay tributes to this great Chief Justice and also to thank and appreciate the services of Advocate Patne and Advocate Khalap for rekindling this memory. Thank you very much. Thank you. This concise biography demonstrates that Chief Justice Ram Shastri Prabhune was one of the tallest icons of judicial integrity and independence. His grip over the laws of his times, his erudition, his sincerity, his zest to do justice despite all odds are a stuff of the legend that has been succinctly captured by these two authors in this concise presentation. But what the posterity admires most in Chief Justice Ram Shastri Prabhune is the courage that this Chief Justice displayed in discharging his judicial functions. Due to this virtue of the Chief Justice, he stands out as an outstanding icon of judicial independence. Friends, several people have several virtues, but courage is the greatest of all virtues, because if you do not have courage, then you may not have the guts to use any of the other virtues which you possess effectively. Seeking pardon from Devidas, I must say it was Thomas Jefferson who famously said that one man with courage constitutes the majority. Physical bravery is no doubt admirable, but they say that physical bravery many a times is an animal instinct. Moral bravery is a much refined concept in civilization. And this takes a lot of courage. Chief Justice Shastry Prabhune's life epitomizes this courage. And that is why we honor him and are so proud of what he has done and the legacy that he has left to us. Now, as the biography shows, it is not that the Chief Justice was never afraid. On the contrary, there were several instances where this great Chief Justice feared social ostracization. There were instances when he was worried about clearing his debts and discharging his family responsibilities. He was apprehensive about the well-being, perhaps not of himself, but of his family members who were dependent upon him. At crucial stages of his career, the Chief Justice feared threat to his own life and the safety of his family members. After all, Shastry Prabhune was also a human being, though a human being with exceptional virtues, including, as I repeat, the most important virtue of courage. What distinguishes this Chief Justice is how he overcame his fears and apprehensions. Never once did this Chief Justice allow his fears or apprehensions to deflect him from the course of justice. And this is where lies his greatness. The biography, which has been extremely well presented, affirms what Mark Twain once explained, that courage is not absence of fear. Courage is resistance to fear, mastery over fear. Even Nelson Mandela explained the concept in a similar manner. He said that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. A brave man, a courageous man, is not he who does not feel afraid, but it is he who conquers his fear. Chief Justice Prabhune achieved greatness because he triumphed over his fear. He conquered fear. He was indeed a profile in courage. This Chief Justice was not a coward. A coward, they say, dies 1,000 times before his death, but the valiant taste death but once. This significant aspect of Chief Justice's greatness is very well captured by both Mr. Patne and Mr. Khalap in their concise presentations. Friends, judicial independence and the rule of law have a very close nexus. One cannot survive without the other. But as you all know, the judiciary has neither the sword nor the purse. Therefore, the institution of judiciary survives on people's confidence in this institution. People's confidence in the lawyers, people's confidence in the judges that administer this institution. And people will have no confidence in this institution of judiciary or the judges if they suspect that the judges are not independent. Suppose they suspect that the judges decide the cases before them by yielding to their fears or favors. If the people lose their faith in judiciary because the judges are not independent or the judges are not persons with integrity, then this will lead to disrespect to the very institution of judiciary. This will lead to disobedience of judicial orders. This would lead to absolute chaos where might will always be right. People would then resort to extrajudicial methods to secure what they perceive is justice. If that happens, then the rule of law, which is the basis of any civilized legal system, will be subverted. Therefore, we must appreciate that judicial independence is not the property or the commodity of the judiciary alone. Judicial independence is a commodity which is only held by the judiciary in trust for the people. Judicial independence is a national treasure in any civilized nation. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the people to do everything within their means to see that no one plunders this national treasure. All the stakeholders, like lawyers, judges, legislators, bureaucracy, the executive governments, must nurture and preserve this treasure. This treasure is far too important to be left only to the judges to protect. This is our collective responsibility as a body politic. Friends, judicial independence is not only about speaking truth to power. Judicial independence is not only about freedom from government or executive pressures. Judicial independence is also not only about separating the powers between the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. These are only some of the facets of judicial independence. But judicial independence has several dimensions. It is a much broader concept that takes within its sweep independence from the pressures of all social, economic, and political power centers. There can be pressures from the civil society, vocal human rights groups, environmental bodies, and of course, the fourth estate, the media. The media is now regarded as the fourth pillar of a vibrant democracy. The first three pillars, as you know, are the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. Judges very often have to decide controversial issues. Moreover, judges sometimes have to adopt a counter-majoritarian or an unpopular approach. This is not because they like to be unpopular or because they are against the majority, but this is because their allegiance is to the Constitution, which is the supreme document insofar as they are concerned. Constitutional morality is sometimes different from the traditional notions of morality. Therefore, it is not uncommon for the judges to bear the brunt of criticism through the media or social networking platforms. But those who swear by the Constitution must learn to welcome such criticism. Our Constitution, subject to certain reasonable restrictions, guarantees free speech and expression to our citizens. And as judges, it is our duty to uphold this Constitution. There is no point in suggesting that such pressure groups must refrain from resorting to even peaceful and legitimate means that the law guarantees to them. Instead, it is for the judges to get accustomed to train themselves, and not to be unduly pressured by such factors. As judges, our conduct, our reasoning, our competence, and our commitment to the Constitution must act as a bulwark to protect judicial independence. About 100 years ago, Lord Atkin famously remarked that justice is not a cloistered virtue. She must be allowed to suffer the scrutiny and the respectful, even though outspoken comments of ordinary men. When criticized in the press, another judge, Lord Denning, was hearing a contempt petition against the media. But he refused to hold the media guilty of contempt or restrain publication. And this is how he put it. Let me say at once that we will never use this jurisprudence as means to uphold our own dignity. That must rest on surer foundations. Nor will we use it to suppress those who speak against us. We do not fear criticism, nor do we resent it. For there is something far more important at stake, It is no less than freedom of speech itself. But the judge added that the critics of the court must remember that from the nature of our office, we cannot reply to their criticism. That judges cannot enter into public controversies, still less into political controversies. And the judges must rely on their own conduct to be their own vindication. Therefore, I would say, criticize the institution, criticize the judges, but try and do so to strengthen this institution. Criticize them so that the judges are strengthened, they are corrected. If a course correction is necessary, criticism is welcome. But do it with that approach. So do criticize, but always remember that we cannot easily respond to such criticism. Therefore, freely criticize our judgments, but do not attribute motives unless they are on verifiable, solid grounds. All this would in fact contribute to building an independent judiciary, the foundation of which has been laid by great people like Shastry Prabhune. Judicial independence expects judges not to be influenced even by their own preferences for some political, economic or sociological theories when discharging their judicial functions. The real test of judicial independence lies in a judge overcoming his personal beliefs, preferences, preconceptions and predilections, and by neutralizing them while deciding a particular case. If a judge cannot do so, he should recuse himself from hearing the case. For example, on a philosophical level, a judge may have strong views regards capital punishment, defections, or social issues like abortion. But the true test of judicial independence is where such a judge resists his own personal opinions or preferences, and he does not allow his personal opinions to interfere with his judicial decision-making process. This is a significant aspect of judicial independence. Now take the example of Justice Vivian Bose, one of the greatest judges of our country. Now he was dealing with a preventive detention matter, and by interpreting the constitution, he felt that this preventive detainee, who was absolutely a villain, was required to be released. He released him, but while ordering his release, this is what Justice Bose observed. He said that it is perhaps ironical that I should struggle to uphold these freedoms in favor of a class of persons who, if the rumor is to be accredited, and if the list of their activities furnished to us is a true guide, would be the first to destroy them if they but had the power. But I cannot allow my personal predilections to sway my judgment of the Constitution. Justice Bose concluded by saying that it is indeed one test of belief in principles if you apply them to cases which you have no sympathy at all. Now this is the true mark of judicial independence. We have to be independent of ourselves. We have to rid of our own notions, own personal views when it comes to judicial decision making. Outside the courts, maybe a little liberty is permissible, though while you are in service, it is best that you don't express those opinions. During our Constituent Assembly debates, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru visualized that judges should not only be first rate, but should be acknowledged to be first rate in the country. And they should be persons of the highest integrity, if necessary, people who can stand up against the executive government and whoever may come in their way. The same thoughts were expressed by other members of the Constituent Assembly, and they said that judges should not be diverted from their duty by any extraneous influences, not by hope of reward, not by fear of penalties, not by flattering praise, nor by indignant reproach. It is the sure knowledge of this that gives the people confidence in their judges. Judicial independence is also not to be confused with a propensity to strike down legislation or executive actions at a drop of the hat. That is not judicial independence. That is perhaps judicial showmanship. Justice Krishna here, another great judge, observed that independence, genuflection is something which a person kneels down while he is being knighted. So he says that independence of judiciary is not genuflection, nor is it opposition to every proposition of the government. It is neither judiciary made to opposition measure nor for the government's pleasure. Judicial independence should also take into account judicial accountability. These are different sides of the same coin. Without judicial accountability, judicial independence becomes meaningless. Judicial independence is not achieved merely by protection granted to the judges, but rather judicial independence is achieved by the degree of judicial courage that our judges can demonstrate while discharging judicial functions. This courage enables the judges to withstand pressures and influences, even threats, and exercise true independence in their decision making. If we want a truly independent judiciary, then the judges must demonstrate courage. Our system can never insulate the judges completely from backlash or pressure, that is, expecting the unexpected. Hence, judicial courage is an essential attribute, and if judges fail or falter to exercise their much wanted independence, then they fail to discharge their judicial oath of dispensing justice without fear or favor. Therefore, our judges must take inspiration from Chief Justice Shastry Prabhune, who dared to speak truth to power. This Chief Justice declared at that time that widow remarriage was legal regardless of threats of social ostracization. This Chief Justice ruled with the Kayastha Prabhus, irrespective of the majority's wishes and considerations of popularity or unpopularity of those times. And finally, regardless of the severe consequences to himself and his family, as was so brilliantly expounded by Ramakant Khalapji, this Chief Justice courageously declared that there was no penalty lesser than death penalty for the mighty Peshwa when the Peshwa's complicity in the murder of his nephew was established. Ram Shastry quit his office after he pronounced the sentence, but not because he feared the consequences, but because he felt that he could never function under a tainted Peshwa who had no regard for the law. Chief Justice Ram Shastry Prabhune had a strong mind, a great heart, and absolute integrity. He was a man whom the lust of office did not kill, a man whom the spoils of office could not buy, a man who had the honor and who would not lie, a tall man who lived above the fog of his times, in public duty and in private thinking. Our words naturally seem inadequate in paying tributes to such a man. Therefore, our sincere tribute would be to do our assigned duty without fear or favor and to the best of our abilities. Emulating such a great person is beyond us, but we can continue to be inspired by this timeless and great Chief Justice. Before I conclude, I again compliment and thank Advocate Prabhune and Advocate Khalap for a job very well done. A translator, they say, must have command over both the languages. But if a person is not to remain a mere translator, then such a person must have a grip on the subject matter and the context. Mr. Khalap has been an eminent lawyer, a linguist, an author, and a union law minister. Advocate Prabhune, besides being a member of the noble legal profession, has been a journalist, researcher, writer, and an environmentalist. Therefore, this concise presentation combines Mr. Prabhune's and Mr. Khalap's invaluable talents. This presentation is their combined gift to our generation and the following generations. Together, they have written about a star, an icon of judicial integrity and independence. This star, like the pole star, should be an inspiration to all of us. This star must guide us on the path of righteousness. Friends, thank you very much and Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, Justice Maheshji Sonal, for your valuable remarks. I'm sure everybody in the audience will agree that was an excellent explanation on the significance of judicial independence in our country. Thank you so much. Can we hear a big round of applause once again? May I now request Advocate Khalab to present a token of appreciation to our dignitaries.
Can I request, if you don't mind, the audience to please give a standing ovation to Mr.
I would request you to give a standing ovation to Justice.
Will Justice Maheshji Sonal first?
I would just add, I would request Justice Solak to permit us to use his speech as a foreword for our next
Will the Advocate General Devidas Pangam sir? Advocate Gilman Coelho Pereira. And to Advocate Vilas Patni. So these are the stars like we initially mentioned. Stars for the stars here today. Request you to get those books for
This is a personal present for me. Both are Marathi. My first book, a collection of essays. The other one, which is called Blue Man.
here. Thank you so much. Showing gratitude is one of the simplest yet most powerful things humans can do for each other. Gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the parent of all others. May I now call upon Advocate Vilas Patni, who is the writer of the original Marathi version of the book, to propose the vote of thanks.
Lordship Shri Maheshji Sonal sir, Advocate General Devidas Pangam sir, on the High Court Bar Association Shri Pereira sir, and my learned friend Mr. Ramakanji Khalab. When the Marathi version of this book has been launched, I casually refer in particular Shri Khalab sir. You have to shoulder this responsibility and you translate it into a full language. Basically, he was hesitating, but finally he has completed his job Thank you, sir. Nicely you are translated for the books. The Ratnagiri District Court has been established in 150 years back. And the architect of the Indian Constitution, Mr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, was practicing in the Ratnagiri Court. I remind that previously this particular Ratnagiri Court was a British factory. And the foot of the particular building, the barges of the British particular was launching. And later on I realized, Sonak sir, this building was erected after using the material of the Parandi patient from the modern Guhagar. That the regal palace was collapsed and all material was collected. And from that material, this Ratnagiri Court building has been finally erected. So I remind me, Anand Peshri, she was originally from Oak family, Madan Guhagar, and the wife of this Raghavadada. Both were the co-conspirators, and obviously they had this particular conspiracy and murdered the young Pesha of 18, Narayan Rao. The earthquake was particularly shocking the particular Marathi region. But one thing is clear that Shastry has, without any hesitation, that is the courage of law, that is the of the Constitution. I very much remind this particular story. Sonak sir, when the emergency was launched, and all the particular habeas corpus was particular filed in the various high courts, they were clubbed together, and one bench was formed to decide the issue. That case was known to be Jabalpur case in the Supreme Court. You can either of the Chief Justice. Other four were the judges. They have unanimously held that and they suspended the fundamental rights. However, only one judge stood for the particular integrity and freedom right, that is the Judge Goan, Judicial.